So my journey to entrepreneurship, I'm a serial entrepreneur, I would say. It started in 2009. As I got out of school in 2006, so 3 years out, was working full time. Always keep a full time job in addition to the side hustles, which we can talk about as challenges kind of when we get into the deeper side of the conversation. But started a company with a friend, also UVA grad who was from North New Jersey as well. And we started off as I would call it real estate and small business investment and advisory firm. Obviously fast forward, I've done the clothing line outside of that. Obviously 361 commission. I've got AAO Property Group, and through AAO, we also make investments in other companies. So right now I made an investment to a food and beverage concept called Ghost Truck Kitchen out of Jersey City. And so for me, Boyega, just in terms of why I always want to be an entrepreneur, I think there's a few things, my family, my mother and father specifically, as we were coming up, they did everything they could to give us an education. Our generation, especially as African American, education is the most important thing to progress. And so we made a focus on that. And the goal was always, hey, get your education, get a good job, take care of your family, but always be somebody who ends up working for themselves. You got to be your own boss if you want that freedom. And that stuck with me. And so, ever since school, I remember I was a first year analyst at CIT. They had just started a real estate group. I jumped into their, it's like real estate investment banking, but more so real estate lending and doing loans. And me and my friend at the same time, we're looking at bars in Newark, in the city of Newark, to buy to get some cash flow. I'm talking, this is the first or second year out of school. But going through that whole corporate track really gave me the background, the analytical view of the world, taught me how to maneuver with people, work my people skills, build my relationships. So I value that as much as being an entrepreneur. Honestly, it's all about timing. And I feel like now I've hit a point where I feel good about being an entrepreneur. I got enough experience on the other side that people respect me when I come in the room. And then also I'm capable of navigating what comes my way.
I want to understand your mindset coming out of school, right? Because, coming out of college, being myself being raised to, Black foreigners, you work you work your butt off to get into a good school. You get into a good school, you get a good job, then you prove yourself at that job. And I know for me, it was I had tunnel vision. My brother used to ask me, what's your hobby? My hobby is my career. How did you, I understand that entrepreneurship was, the idea of it was instilled at a young age. How did you find the confidence and the time and the energy to try to take on both so early on out of college?
I think for those early ones, one, I had no idea what I was getting into. Right. So I thought it was a lot easier than what it was. I'm like, oh, we'll look at these business listings, whatever, and then we'll go invest. And I think a lot of those foolish decisions, I'm always for the risk. Like, you got to be in it to win it. Right. It's almost like Michael Jordan. How he's so competitive, he gambles with everything. I'm in the boat with him. Right. Yeah. So I want to kind of take that risk. So I was just willing to step out there. And honestly, like, you came out, you were tunnel vision. Man, I came out, I was in New York City. I was having a good time, and so I was doing the job, trying to do a little bit of the entrepreneurship, but I had a good time as well, too, man. I really enjoyed myself. But again, as you start to work for more of the organizations and corporations, I think you start to see there's ways to do this, and it's not as challenging as it might be, right? You start to feel like you're smart enough to make some of these decisions, smart or unsmart, depending on how old or how young you are in experience. But that's where it started.
Yeah, no, I like it. No, that's, for me, it's always been, a calculation of risk. And like you said, you've got to be able to embrace that risk. You got to be able to embrace the possibility of failure. And honestly, failure is just an opportunity to learn.
Certainty for failure, right? Like, if you don't fail, you got to go through those failures. And it took me a long time to realize that. For me, as a husband, as a father, I'm lucky to have a wife who's supportive of me going crazy with all these different ideas, right? Because she holds it down. So I think that's important to have the stability on that side as well, too. But even as I make decisions now, thinking about my businesses, I have to think about my 16-year-old who's going to college in 2 years, my 12-year-old who's looking at me, my 6-year-old, so all of that plays in, like you said, on that risk spectrum. But failure is certain. No entrepreneur I know has ever not failed.
Thanks for watching. If you found this video to be helpful, please leave a comment, like, subscribe, and share with a friend. If you are an entrepreneur and want to share your story and be helpful to others, just shoot us an email at behelpfulpodcast